Tesla's rival Xpeng Motors has released what could be the biggest challenge to Tesla's dominance in self-driving technology. I will tell you what it is, I will show you what it is, and also I will update you on what's going on with the latest release by Tesla with their full self-driving package. And later I will be joined by the contributing writer to Electrek, Scooter Doll, who just wrote an article about this. And of course, later I will take questions from you, my live audience. And we're going to start right now. As you remember, only a few years ago, Tesla was the king of everything EV. The longest range, the fastest charging, the biggest supercharger network, the craziest CEO, everything. But as you know, in the last 3 years, things have changed a little. The title of the longest range and fastest charging was snatched up by Lucid, and they're just about to do the same with a 0 to 60, which I care about very little. Their supercharging network, which a lot of people believe is their biggest advantage and biggest feature, is just about to be open to all EV drivers, which is great, but maybe not so great for Tesla drivers, because Tesla wants that sweet Biden money from the latest bill, as they should. But now it looks like Xpeng Motors might be catching up with something else, which is the full self-driving, which Elon Musk himself said is the biggest feature, pride and joy of Tesla. Without it, he believes Tesla will not survive, which is kind of weird because I think Tesla will survive literally no matter what. But let's talk about Tesla's FSD first, because there has been some developments, some big developments in the last few weeks, and I don't think I've updated you guys on that. Now, first of all, the latest release was dropped, and Elon Musk was basically very confident once again that this is just going to be. He said is going to be worth the name, and he also, on top of that, raised the price by about $3,000. So now it is at $15,000. However, it looks like Electrek's Fred, who is the editor-in-chief, wasn't really impressed when he did his own drive. And it looks like a lot of other people are still reporting quite a few problems. The biggest problem lately has been the phantom braking, where the car sees something that's really not there and brakes. So kind of an imaginary friend. However, to me, you either see the friend or you don't see the friend. So if the problem is still there, it's still there. And on top of that, the class action lawsuit was filed against Tesla. And this time, a lot of people say, a lot of experts say that, they might actually succeed and Tesla might be in actual trouble from having to rename the feature to actually having to put it on pause, which is going to be a huge problem. And of course, there's a DMV and an HTSA NHTSA investigation as well. Now, as you probably remember, the reason that Xpeng Motors is a trigger word to a lot of Tesla fans is because Elon Musk has accused them of stealing their software. But I think very few people know what the conclusion of that actually came to be, and I will tell you about it in just a second. But before that, a quick reminder that this video is brought to you by Flow. If you're looking for one of the most elegant designs for your home charger, well, the Flow Home X5 was made for you, featuring beautiful, sturdy 100% aluminum casing. Get your exclusive $150 discount in the description of this video. And by NeoCharge. Guess what? The 220 outlet that powers your dryer can now be split to also power your EV with the help of the smart splitter from NeoCharge, which will switch back to your dryer while you're doing laundry. Get one today and use the discount code in the description of this video. All right, so let's talk about the lawsuit, right? So back in the day, Elon Musk has accused of Xpeng Motors of stealing their self-driving code. Now, essentially, and this is one of many, many tweets that he has sent out, but essentially what happened was Tesla never sued Xpeng. They sued their former employee who went to Xpeng and looks like as many people looks like did, downloaded the code. Now, of course, that was a dumb thing to do, but Xpeng has always denied doing that. Now, after I think couple of years, finally, and we looked at the court papers. The third party was hired and literally compared the code line by line and said they are completely two different things. And so Tesla, I believe they settled with the guy who was their ex-employee, but at the same time, there was never anything filed against Xpeng Motors. But as we know in our society, just the accusation itself already caused, for example, a lot of Tesla fans believe Elon Musk. So just wanted to update you on that. So the latest FSD release doesn't seem like to be a big hit. But they keep raising the price, which again surprises me. Let me know in the comment section here in the live chat if you believe it's too much, too little, or just right. It went from I think 3 to 5 to 7 to 10 to 12 and now to 15. But let's talk about what Xpeng Motors has done this week. So what they've released is essentially they're calling it the city navigation guided pilot, CNGP, which, and you're looking at it right now. This is the footage that they've released. Now, this is right now is limited to a select group of Guangzhou-based Xpeng P5 customers. As you know, they have 4 models out right now. Now, Keith Range here in the chat says $15,000 is stupid high. But, I agree. Though from what I gather, they have not raised the price on the monthly subscription fee, which I think is still around $200. But, I honestly thought $5,000 was stupid high, but that's just me. So anyway, they've released this, and it's been kind of being taunted for a few months. And now it looks like they are on par or even maybe better than Tesla's own full self-driving package. Now, here's the difference. And this is where I side with Tesla, because, Tesla's technology, as flawed as it is right now, and it definitely is still pure AI, artificial intelligence, meaning they've designed it so that Tesla actually drives you kind of like a human being, right? Looking at the signs, looking at the road and everything. Now, Xpeng Motors took a different approach, an approach that everybody else took, is where they actually using the high resolution maps, where they kind of, map everything out in 3D, then upload it to every car, and then the car kind of knows where it's at. Now, the challenge is, and that's why this looks like it's only going to be working in the city of Guangzhou in China, is because they've only fully 100% mapped one city. And more is coming, and that's what they're claiming. But that's not really a smart way of doing things, right? This is not a true AI. However, it's been succeeding with other companies like Waymo and Cruise. Now, I know Cruise got its own problems, right? There's just almost every other week there's a report of something going wrong with Cruise. But I was in San Francisco a couple of days ago, and I got to tell you guys, I didn't spend that much time on the streets of San Francisco, right? As nobody really should. But I've seen so many of these little buggers, and none of them have actual drivers in the driver's seat, which is insane. Like, this is what the future looks like, right? And it was great to see, and they're not slow. They're quite aggressive, I would say. As a matter of fact, I think they might be better some of the drivers in San Francisco. And San Francisco is not an easy city to drive in. I have trouble myself. So these guys are great. But Cruise is they're just in San Francisco because they've mapped out that city. You have to maintain those maps, right? That's the thing. If at 3 p.m. somebody shows up and puts bunch of cones and closes down the road, that's not going to be in the 3D maps that they've been uploaded, let's say, last night. So that's the only way to do AI, is the way that Tesla does it. And I think you're looking at Mary Barra, who took a ride in it, because Cruise is owned by GM. By the way, so Xpeng Motors, they have what now? They just announced their 5th model. in G9. Right now they have 4, and I've test drove them here once, the P7, but then I went to Europe in the beginning of summer and test drove 2 of them through let's see, Netherlands, Norway, and Sweden. And I gotta tell you, like the one with the that you're looking at right now with the doors opening up like that, that's for sale. And it is awesome. The number of people that we tried to take some videos and pictures of it, and it was almost impossible because people would gather around and we could not do it because right away the attention is absolutely amazing. And especially in Norway, where almost all EVs are cheaper their gas counterparts because of all of the incentives. That car I think was like $70,000 or $80,000, which is insane, and I loved it. However, I have to say that I have a concern as Xpeng and other Chinese manufacturers are expanding into Europe. But with Xpeng, I've noticed something that, despite they having a great product and really good pricing and a lot of great stuff, I've noticed that, the culture in China is obviously very different from Western culture. And I think what they're trying to do, they are going into the market without quite understanding the Western culture and how to not only sell it and, put it in front of the customers, but also how to run their staff, which I think is even a bigger problem. So I am concerned with that. However, I am happy that, Xpeng and BYD and NIO are all coming to Europe, and hopefully soon to the United States. It sounds like NIO might be one of the first ones. Now, another thing I wanted to point out about Xpeng's self-driving technology is that unlike Tesla's, we haven't heard too many issues. As a matter of fact, I haven't heard a single big issue about their XPilot, which is their self-driving package, at all. And that's been out for over a year now, at the very least, where, with Tesla, we're hearing so many issues. Now, I don't know. Well, I don't want to say I don't know, but obviously the way information flows in China is a little different, and it is a Chinese automaker. But I do believe that at least partially it is because Xpeng's technology that at least they're releasing is better. As a matter of fact, it looks like it's only Tesla that feels comfortable to what I call conduct, human trials, where, they put something together really quick and then say, you guys go ahead and test it on real roads with your real families and then let us know how it goes. Other manufacturers, including Xpeng Motors, they don't. So when they put something out, they take pride in it, and they actually roll something out that works. And it looks, at least it looks for now, that Xpeng's our efforts are paying off. And if they really do expand the latest city NGP to other major cities in China and hopefully cover the entire map, this could be something that will outperform Tesla, at least in China. Of course, they have a big task to do in Europe, and if they ever come to the United States. But for now, it does seem like it is working. Now, on that trip that I told you about in Europe, that's where I actually met Scooter, who is my guest, and I'll bring him in just a second. And we kind of rode in this cars together and experienced the same. And he just wrote one of the few articles that I see about Xpeng City and GP being released. So and that's his article you were looking at right now. So without further ado, let me bring in Scooter. Scooter, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. Fan of the show. So I know we've been trying to get together for a while now, so it's great to be here.
Yeah, and I thought this was perfect timing because you just wrote an article about this. So, let me just ask you before we kind of even dive into this. Let me ask you about something I was just guessing a second ago. The fact that we haven't heard anything sort of negative about Xpeng's self-driving technology, the XPilot as they're calling it. Is this because they've only released and they're actually working a beta, or is because the information in China is not easy to get?
I I really think you hit it on both heads there. I think it's a combination of both. I think, like you said, there's a different culture in China, and they do put a lot of time and pride into these products to ensure people's safety. Xpeng in particular has a 7-day testing program that a driver must go through before they could even really get into NGP. So I think that's a big part of it. But like you said, we're getting our information from China. Those news streams are very different. And a lot of times we're getting this information directly from the automakers themselves. So they control the narrative. So in a way, I think some of those facts and some of that information could be left out. I'm not saying that's the case, but it's very possible.
All right. Now, by the way, you mentioned about the 7-day thing, and Tesla has something similar where you kind of have to pass the test and get the score. How do you feel about
Mhm.
the fact that I paid the money for a feature, and now I'm only going to be allowed to use it if I pass the test and keep the score? Does it sound weird, but really not very consumer friendly? I mean, people can ask for their money back, right?
Yeah, and I think if you want your money back, that's totally justified. But I think you got to play by the rules in this case. You have to be aware of what you're doing, and you have to be able to step in when needed. You need to understand how the vehicle and the software is working. So that takes the proper training, and you need to do all the proper steps to ensure that if you do need to step in, you're aware of everything that's going on.
All right. Now, you wrote an article about this. So you obviously researched it. You've seen the video, and we can only rely on this video so much because I mean we know that probably was the first run, and well, maybe it was, but it's coming from the manufacturer. Of course, I would wait for journalists to actually, especially Western journalists, to test this. But XPilot has been around for a while. Do you believe that this is something that can really outbest Tesla in this technology, even though I think that it's not exactly the best AI way to go.
I mean, I think time will tell. Honestly, I don't want to upset the Tesla community, but I think from everything we've seen so far, the videos they've shown in real time with no cuts, especially with City NGP, navigating through construction sites and busy areas in Guangzhou, it seems really promising. But I guess to answer your question, I don't see why we can't live in a world where both systems thrive. I don't understand why it has to be one or the other, in my opinion.
Now let's address like the big issue that kind of Elon Musk made out of this really is the usage of radars and lidars. Obviously, Xpeng has doubled down on radars and lidars, and there's a good argument to be made that if we are using the technology, we should use it to the full extent because our eyes can't really see through sometimes fog or rain or darkness, and neither can the cameras, right? The bouncing different types of, whether it's sound or lasers, off of different objects and getting a better idea of what's in front of us or in the back of us sounds like a good idea. Now, of course, there are people will say, well, there are a lot of false negatives and everything, but I'm like, well, you're software engineers, figure it out or make the actual hardware better. But using something that is much better than our eyes, isn't that the whole point? What are your thoughts on vision only versus sensors like radars and lidars?
Truthfully, I think whatever works, whatever is going to be more effective than human error, because that's the major reason for a lot of the accidents and collisions that we're having now. But like you mentioned, Waze and Cruise in San Francisco, and I've been up there and seen it myself. There are a lot of vehicles without drivers in them, and yeah, they have big, bulky lidars on them and all these sensors that are not good for aerodynamics and unsightly. But you look at some of the cars coming out of China now that are loaded with LiDAR and they're seamless. Look at the G9 that just came out today that has multiple LiDAR sensors in it that fit nicely into the design of the car. So you're able to integrate these important sensors into EVs now that aren't bulky and unsightly, and they're effective in doing what they need to do to provide this sort of technology and keeping people safe.
Now let's take a quick question here. Will Patton says, FSD is a scam to make something that is capable and withhold it because they can make more money. Tesla needs to just rip the band-aid and make an included feature. So let me go first, actually. So I wouldn't call it FSD a scam, right? Because it's there. I mean, whatever features they've developed, which is, by the way, the best AI as far as self-driving technology is concerned, out there by far. And they do have a lot of, like, for example, on the freeway, it's almost flawless. It's in the city, it's a whole different. It's definitely not ready, but on the freeway, it's really, really, really good. And I think that my problem has always been not only just don't roll out the beta, right? Go ahead and test it first and then roll it out, but also just rename it. It's not full self-driving, it's not autopilot as far as how people perceive this. If you rename it in some sort of a digital co-pilot or whatever, there's tons of fancy names that haven't been taken yet, and you just wait a little bit to test things out before releasing it. I think it would, and of course the price, but yeah, sure, it is really good, but it's not a scam. But Scooter, let me throw this to you and maybe add a question about, like, with the lawsuit that's been filed, Tesla can really have to be they can be in trouble and they have to roll a lot of stuff back. In a perfect world, what would you do if you were Tesla? What would be the best way they should handle what they got, which is a good product if you package it right?
Yeah, it's tough to say because they're so far down the road now. And I think that's a big reason for the rolling out of the beta to more and more people. I think it's 160,000 users now, which is, I mean, it's tremendous. And being able to use all that data from all those drivers to help push the product forward and the development forward, I think is smart in that sense. But I think, like you said, using the word full self-driving, is a little misleading at this point, but they kind of have to stick with it because they punted on this so many years now. They've been promising and promising and promising it. So I think they're in a little bit over their heads in that sense. So it's too late to go back and try to rename it. But going back, if I could, I definitely would have done things differently, and I'm sure they would too. Maybe using a different name, not calling it full self-driving. I think they definitely have the technology to get there, but it's been a process, and we've seen it publicly because so many people are talking about it, anticipating it, and personally trying out the beta, that it's a constant topic of conversation. And I think that's why there's so much pressure. It remains so relevant because of those things.
And here's another very interesting comment. Mario Frog says, why is everyone ignoring Mercedes calling their drive pilot level 3, but it can't actually go over 60 kilometers an hour on the freeway? But everyone is calling Tesla full self-driving Deathtrap when no deaths actually happen. Okay, first of all, no one's calling it a Deathtrap, but it has a lot of problems. I mean, if Deno Doubt, which I guess did a disservice to himself with his last video, but his original video was actually full of nothing but videos filmed by Tesla fans, where the cars basically run into bunch of obstacles, and I think at one time almost a bicyclist. So it's it's not a death trap, but when it's doing all of those things, you see the technology is not perfect, and this technology is responsible for people's lives. So that's first of all. Now here's a big difference between what Mercedes got going on. Yes, Mercedes's one is very limited. It's limited to a speed on the freeway. I believe it's limited to very certain freeways in Germany. And by the way, I believe the original purpose of that is to navigate you while you're in traffic, rather than you just going in a straight line. But here's a big difference, Mario Frog. Mercedes will take legal responsibility when something happens to you, whether Tesla absolutely does not. That's the huge difference, right? We're saying, listen, our technology is very limited, right? But when we give it to you, we will guarantee you and take legal responsibility for that product, right? Where Tesla says, well, it's beta, and we're still trying things out, but you try it, you let us know how it goes. That's the big difference. Scooter, what are your thoughts on this? The Mercedes level 3, what they really, by the way, I've covered it. I am not ignoring it at all. I definitely made a whole video about it.
Yeah, I think this is a great point. I think this is a great question, and I think you nailed it with the answer. It was exactly what I was going to say. I personally experienced Drive Pilot, and I will agree with Mario Frog that the limits of the 60 kilometers an hour is a little discouraging, but it's progress, right? You know, we're working there. Mercedes has that sort of approval in Germany, and I believe they have it in California. If not, they're very close to having it in California.
All right, listen. Thanks so much for joining me. This is definitely has been fun talking about this, and kind of let us reminisce about the our trip to Europe when we actually met in person and got to drive the Xpeng cars and check out their showrooms. And if people should definitely follow Scooter on Twitter. I put a link to his account there in the description. When I say there, I mean the description of the video. So, all right. Well, listen, it's been great hanging out, and I hope you will join me again in a few weeks.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Follow me on Twitter and send me those dog pics that you're not going to send to Alex.
Excellent. All right, guys, thanks for hanging out. Now, a bit of a heads up here. I will actually be rebranding my channel probably even this weekend. Now, nothing's changing about this channel, but you probably noticed that, I've pivoted the direction a little bit in the last year with just based on what's happening with the industry. From the happy Alex, oh, look at all the prototypes, they're so shiny and great, to like, oh, look, they're making them now and there are problems. You'll see the new graphics, really cool graphics that I've been developing for a while, even had to do a photo shoot. But I'll also just kind of explain about where the channel is going, which I think if you're a regular viewer, you already know, and also address why, some of my guests like Sandy Monroe are no longer on the channel. I know a lot of you guys have asked. I have addressed this in an interview with another YouTuber, and it's out there. But I guess I'm just gonna have to address it here, and without hopefully starting a fight or some sort of feud, because I still like Sandy. He's been great to me for years, and I feel like I own an explanation to you guys. So, all right, guys, thanks so much for hanging out with me, and for those of you who watched it in the replay, looking forward to all of your comments. Other than that, see you guys next time, and remember to stay charged.